What do you need to know about learning styles as a trainer? We're going to talk about 3 things that every trainer should know about learning styles and talk about the format learning model for reaching those styles. I'm Janine O'Neill Blackwell, and I'm the president of Format for Business. And we're going to begin with the first thing you should know, which is, what is a learning style? If we had to define learning styles, how would we define that? Learning style refers to your preference for 2 primary processes in learning. And the first is your preference in how you like to take in information. And you are likely more of a feeler or you're more of a thinker. And you have a preference for one of those 2 ways of interacting and experiencing new information. The second is the way you like to process it. Once you take in information, how do you process the information? Some of us are more watchers. We want to reflect on it and kind of really ponder it. And then some of us are more of doers. We want to be in the doing. When we combine this feeling, thinking preference with our watching, doing preference, what we see is that we have 4 primary combinations that show up. And we call those combinations 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 learning styles of the format model. And as a 1, the ones have a preference for feeling and watching. And so they're very people-oriented, very observation-oriented, and are interested in the meaning of new ideas. The 2s are watchers and thinkers. They're interested in facts and expert information and knowledge. The 3s are very thinking oriented and doing oriented. So they think about something, they move into doing, and they're very practical. They enjoy hands-on in a learning experience, and they want to apply this to the real world. And the 4s are very doing and feeling oriented. So they are interested in how this works and what we might create from it, new possibilities and self-discovery. That's the first question, what is learning styles? And once you have an awareness of what a learning style is, you immediately move into this question of, well, what do I do with that information as a trainer? How should I address learning styles? And when you first discover that different people have unique preferences in learning, you might think it would be advantageous to group learners by style and teach their preference. And we get that conversation frequently when we are teaching our courses and people are first introduced to format. And actually, there's some models out there that advocate doing that. If somebody's experiential, you put them with other experiential learners and you teach them that way. But the challenge is that what we know about brain research is that for learning transfer to occur, the learner has to move through all 4 parts of the learning cycle. And the format model provides a framework for addressing the needs of the learner and their preference, while also moving them through the cycle they need to move through in order to transfer that learning. The first part of this cycle is called engage, and this is where we engage the learner in their own experiences and what's meaningful around the content. In the second part, we share the knowledge of the experts and the content they need to have to apply this information in the real world. Then we practice. We're going to move them into some practical hands-on application of the information. And then finally they perform, and they begin to think about what learning barriers might show up for them in the real world and how they might need to adapt and refine and measure their own success. This movement mirrors what we see in the brain research. And Dr. James Zoll, who is a very admired colleague and has shared with us frequently at our format events, shares with us that this movement physiologically that we see when we are in the process of learning something new or solving a new situation, a new problem, is we move through this experience first. We tap into what we already know and we reflect. We then look to what else we can learn about it externally, from knowledge sources. We might Google something, we might read something, we might listen to an expert. And then we move into, what are we going to do? And then finally, we move back into our own experience and we adapt the learning in a way that's going to work for us. So how do I address learning styles? We need to address the needs of all learners, and then we also need to make sure that we recognize this third thing, which is there is a difference between using style strategies, meaning teaching only to a person's preference, and using a brain-based teaching model. To engage every learner, we have to address their unique needs. To fulfill the learning objective, we must lead the learner through the learning cycle. When you apply the format model, you accomplish both. We'd love to hear from you if you have some more questions and want to continue this conversation with us. You can reach us on our blog and at our fan page on Facebook.